Exchange at BNP Paribas. Hans, thanks very much for joining us. Well, what do you make of the BOJ move today? We didn't get 25 basis points, we got 20. How significant is that?
Well, it is quite significant. If you look as well at the voting behavior, you did not mention already there had been 4 dissenters and it had been a 4-4 vote. And that, I guess, is very important to notice, because it does tell you that the BOJ is still some steps away from quantitative easing measures, and I guess that is what we urgently required. You were mentioning the carry trade environment and the dislocation of the carry trade, and I guess in this current environment in which we are, in which deleveraging is taking a huge part of day-to-day activity, we need to have quantitative easing steps. We need to have a situation where the carry trade dismantling is at least stopping for a while, and for that you need to have quite an aggressiveness of interest rate moves, and that does include the BOJ, maybe more than other central banks, simply because the yen has been used as a funding currency, and therefore there is as well a sort of global responsibility the BOJ has to bear. And when you look at the equity markets this morning, after the rate decision falling by about 4%, there's a lot of cross-holdings in Japan, and the banks' balance sheets are suffering from that side, and that actually means that the banks might be as well forced to cut off assets, and that means repatriation, and so that means you have the yen being strengthening from all sides, and that is boding not very well for emerging markets and for other currencies.
You're a dollar bull, but are you bullish against the yen there?
Well, we are euro-dollar bear, but what we are saying is that the yen is definitely here in an appreciating environment, and the reason why this is happening has to do with the slope of yield curves you find elsewhere. For example, in the United States, we have now there is a 2 versus 10s trading at 238 basis points as I speak, and the Japanese lifer needs to have a return of about 200 basis points per year. So what the guy does do is taking his US bond and does take the currency hedge in there for 2 years. So he has a return of 238 basis points for 2 years, and so he's religiously following that rule. And that means he does need to buy yen and he does need to sell dollars. And that is a substantial implication on the marketplace. And that needs to be interrupted, either by the BOJ being more aggressive than the Fed, or by intervention, or what have you. We need definitely to have a floor in dollar yen. Otherwise, you will have more carnage in emerging markets.
Yeah, Hans, looking at sterling as well, you know, it's up this week, but it's actually a 4th monthly drop for that one. Now, you're suggesting it's going to continue. You've got a target of $1.27 for that. Why are you such a sterling bear?
Well, as you know, we are sterling bearish for the past 4 months, and the reason why we are sterling bear is the same like why we are euro bear, is actually the European exposure, for example, into Central and Eastern Europe. 25% of all our exports are going into that region. That marketplace is currently flattening out. Europe is losing its main export partner, but then you add all the other stuff to that. In the UK, the housing market; in Europe, the structural imbalances between its member states, the development on divergence on economic parts, on inflation. There are huge differences taking place in competitiveness between, let's say, Spain and Germany. And then, of course, the impact that is going to have on the UK economy. So all in all, we suggest that sterling and euro is going to have a very hard time going forward, and the US is still benefiting from repatriation-related flows.
Now, we've had the Fed provide swap facilities to various countries. You're saying the ECB should be doing something like that as well, and they should have to widen their remit. Very quickly, 10 seconds to tell me why.
The answer to that is that in Central and Eastern Europe, a lot of corporates, a lot of banks had been funding itself in euros, and at the moment they are discriminated, have no access to euro liquidity, and if we do not stop that, we have a problem.
Thank you, Hans. Hans-Guenter Redeker there from BNP Paribas. Just going to tell you about the outlook for the European Open.